You might be the wife waiting up at night. You might be the man struggling to provide, feeling like it's hopeless. Maybe you're the son who chose a broken road. Maybe you're the girl thinking you'll end up alone, praying, God, can you hear me? Oh God, are you listening? Am I more than flesh and bone? Am I really something beautiful? Yeah, I wanna believe.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Maverick Live, Brokenness to Wholeness. I'm Jeff.
I'm Lisa.
And I'm glad that you all could join us today. See, we have one online. We will wait just a moment or two to allow a few folks to join. I will ask everyone as you come online to let us know you're here and if you're listening live or the replay, and tell us where you're logging in from.
Where you are, yes.
Carrie Ann, it's good to have you with us today. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started, even though we have a little light attendance today. I probably didn't push the live stream soon enough to give people a notice. I did upgrade some tech today, so I'd love some feedback on how the audio is, as well as how the video is. We did some hardwiring connections. So I'd love for, good afternoon, Carrie Ann. I'd love for y'all to share how the video and the audio sounds today. So today we titled our chat, He Wants Access and She Needs Attunement. And we decided to call it that to be a little provocative, but also to describe one of the areas that tend to break down often in relationships, but also all of society, because a man's desire and a woman's emotional needs for safety and trust are often not well understood and not well communicated. And we did touch on this a little bit last week, what was safety in marriage, but I wanted to go a step further and add in the piece of a man's desire into this and really dig into this a little further today. So I'm talking about that subtle and the sacred differences between how men and women connect. And it's one of the biggest sources of pain in relationships and one for the greatest invitations for healing. And it's my belief that God intentionally made men and women this way so that we become other person centered.
Yes.
And we become completely self-sacrificial, because when we devote ourselves to the other person's needs and they to our needs, it's no longer about us, it's about them. Yes. And it's about what makes the connection that much deeper. So Lisa, just as an introduction, what are your thoughts on this topic? And then I'll dive in a little bit deeper here in just a moment. But any other opening comments related to that?
I think it's a great topic. I wanted to make sure I was clear myself. So I wanted to know Webster's definition of attunement. As I looked up attune, and it simply just means harmony as a noun, and then and the verb and a marriage. Be more aware and responsive. So I thought, okay. He wants access. She wants attunement. That made me go immediately to a question. Access to what?
Yeah, well, and that's the titling of that is about connection and about how a man likes to connect versus how women like to connect. Men typically like to connect deeply and physically in order to establish emotional connection. And women are actually the opposite. Thoughts about that? In other words, you prefer the emotional connection before a physical connection.
Okay, first, the word that you just said, that my mind stopped listening. I was listening when you said he wants to connect deeply. How so?
Well, again, in order to connect deeply it's easier for men to do that through physical connection.
Okay, now I'm with you. Because at first I thought, okay, I agree with you.
Yeah, if we're
Yes.
trying to do it through talking,
Yes.
a man has, most men, not all men,
Right.
and this can be developed,
Right. Yeah.
but men can connect more deeply through physical ways. That is how they can initiate that.
Yes.
And they're very fearful to do it in any other way.
I would agree with that.
And that's what I mean by access. And I'm going to talk more about that and how that plays in with nature and all that.
The other thing that came to my mind is men and women are so drastically different, which is good. It's only an act of God that we could communicate at all because we're so different. And if you don't have God in the center of the marriage, it would be that much harder because it's just hard because we're so different.
Yeah. And because of these differences and the misunderstanding, because this is not communicated well between partners, it's not taught well from our parents down to us. And frankly, the church doesn't spend a lot of time in this. And I think for the same reasons that society struggles with it and relationships struggle with it, because I think leaders in the church don't understand it well.
Yeah, because the church is a male-dominated industry, and not to pick on men.
Yeah.
And so if they're uncomfortable with communication, like what you just said, then more than likely, very few are going to bring this up from the pulpit.
Yeah.
But it's necessary.
Agreed.
It's necessary.
Yeah. And I think this should be a part of discipleship.
Yes.
So now that we've set the table for the discussion, I want to focus that this discussion is about sharing what I've learned, and I think what Lisa has learned with others on this topic. And it's not to criticize, it's not to shame, and it's not to blame, because that's what society does. And honestly, and I'm going to speak briefly on the men's side, and I'll invite Lisa to share on the women's side, men get shamed because of their desire. You know, men, we hear people say, oh, you always think with the physical aspect. All you care about is this. Well, it's not a true statement to say that they only care about it is that. It's because that is how men are naturally, inherently wired to connect.
Okay, so am I safe in believing that what you're saying is they're feeling shame is projected onto them? Am I safe in believing that you're saying that women are doing this, shaming? Because I'm agreeing with you if you're saying that's mostly what the shame is coming from.
Yeah. So, and I also say women might project because women don't want that. That creates shame in the man.
Yes.
So they may be shamed. They may be marginalized, men in general.
Right. And I'm going to give the women the benefit of the doubt in saying that I don't believe it's her intention to shame him, although her tone, her response, all may be shame. And I'm not so sure is that she doesn't understand. I'm thinking it's because she doesn't know.
Right.
She doesn't know any of this. She knows all about women, but not about him. And then he comes in with his expectations, and so does she. But I'm just speaking to he's coming with her with these expectations, assuming that she already knows, and she does not. So immediately he feels misunderstood, and in that misunderstood and understanding, he probably feels disrespected. Then you got another thing. Yeah.
So you're getting into the depth of the conversation.
Okay.
So let me kind of reframe where we're going. We're really talking about the ache right now.
Oh, okay.
So
the pain of it.
And again, we're sharing this not to criticize, but to educate. And it is, I believe, God's design. And as a result of the fall and the brokenness and sin, we tend to then shame and traumatize people because of that design. So to summarize quickly, men often feel desire as a steady current, that there's almost a constant desire in men, where women often open through emotional safety. It's when the openness becomes available for a woman. A man can go very quickly.
Let me ask this then. So at what point then is he feeling safe so that he can go there? At what point is he feeling safe to talk about it?
Can I hold that for 1 second?
Yes.
And I think it's a great question that we should address. I'd like to close out the kind of the intro on this.
Okay.
And the reason I want to talk about this is that without guidance, these two realities clash. And you can see in the discussion here why it's clashing. And then what happens is then he'll reach out, she'll pull back because she doesn't feel emotionally safe. But he's reaching out because men are designed to have desire, to penetrate, to pursue. That's the way men are built. But she wants presence first. And when she pulls back, then he feels rejected. And again, this is just the natural aspects of it. So I'm really defining the ache and where the core of this challenge is. So we were never taught why behind these differences, and we were handed shame, stereotypes, and silence instead of reverence for the way that God designed us.
Okay.
So now let's go deeper. I want to just place one other tidbit here. In the animal kingdom, most males only pursue mating when the female's body signals that she's ready.
Say that again.
In the animal kingdom, most males, the male animal, only pursue mating when the female's body signals that she's ready. We hear it going in heat, right?
In the animal kingdom.
In the animal kingdom.
Yeah, okay, yes, yes.
So I'm going to differentiate us from animals because I'm setting the table here
Right,
that
there you go. Animal kingdom. Okay.
That's right, that we are made in the image of God. So I'm
Yes.
trying to show what
Yes.
makes men and
Okay.
women different from the animal kingdom.
Right. Okay.
And outside that window, there's no pursuit. Animals are not designed to pursue like a human male is.
Right.
Animals are not designed to pursue and penetrate in life, in purpose, in mission, in their spouse, because they're not built that way.
No.
And that's because biology tells the animal when it's time. And that's a limit to their design. And we're not animals. We're made in the image of God,
Exactly.
which means men were designed to desire their wives, not just during a biological window, but to give themselves fully and faithfully to her year-round.
Okay. You said he's designed. Now I learned this not knowing till after I was married. You said men are hardwired or to desire their wives. I think men are hardwired just to desire women, period. It's another conversation that once she's married, then he reserves that for the one wife.
So I agree with that. And that is a fair nuance. And I will share what I'm setting the table as to is the covenant of marriage is really what I'm setting towards. Because ultimately the covenant of marriage is what creates some safety for her.
Right. Okay.
So he's got desire, but she wants safety. So that's why God created the covenant.
Right. Exactly.
Now she has safety. He can then pursue within that covenant because there's safety in place.
Okay. Exactly. Because in order for her to feel safe, she wants him to desire her, nothing else. But somewhere at some point in that relationship, as she grows, she realized he's human and he could possibly still have desires for whomever. But she wants the safety of knowing just her.
Yeah.
I don't think that's wrong.
No, not at all. What I'm really trying to do is set the table because I want to turn this into a lesson. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
So and you're firing on all cylinders. You're jumping to my punchlines. But I'm trying to set the table why this is different, because what the secular world is going to tell people when they defend homosexuality, when they defend polyamory, when they defend all these other things, they talk about animals do this. But what they don't talk about is that animals don't create the sexual union all the time. But human beings are designed to do it all the time. So what makes them different? So I'm trying to set the table what truly makes us different. And it is that intimacy in relationship, like the Trinity, and that we were made in the image of God. So that's why we have these same inherent desires.
And because we're made in the image of God, you can't put the husband and wife relationship on the same level, even in the same sentence as animals. Yeah, I'm going to leave that right there because you can't put those two in the same.
Yeah, but remember, I'm hoping to reach a secular audience here.
Right.
So that secular audience believes in evolution, which means we were once animals. So not only did we have to evolve in body, and all parts of us had to evolve in timing, but we had to evolve in male and female the way we come together.
Right.
And we have to evolve emotionally and not physically and emotionally, so we can come together at any time when emotional safety and trust is there and desire is there. And
Okay.
animals aren't wired that way.
No.
So I'm really pointing to how evolution just falls apart over and over and over again,
Okay.
because all of this complex emotion, physical, the complexity of the body, all has to evolve at the same time for us to come together in union to procreate.
Right. Oh, yeah, evolution, that never even came to my mind. Not even at all. Because as a female, when she's thinking about the safety in her marriage, evolution is the last thing on her mind.
Agreed.
So I'm thinking, God, and my mind is back to what you said 5 minutes ago. My mind is on when they meet, when they connect, husband and wife. My mind is thinking, he wants to connect deeply with her. Yes, he wants to connect, but I don't think he's leading with wanting to connect emotionally. And he's leading with connecting physically. Am I wrong in thinking that?
No, not at all.
Now with her first is going to be connecting emotionally and mentally first. And then that physical comes later.
Yeah.
So,
but I want to make sure that we frame it in the right way, that in order for a man to connect emotionally, it's easier if he connects physically first. That's the whole point of this topic. He wants access, she wants attunement.
okay, right. But how is he going to do that with her if he doesn't connect with her emotionally? I think the ideal is he wants to connect, but ultimately he wants access to her body, to her physically, which is nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But for that attunement to take place for both of them, I'm thinking he's going to have to sacrifice
exactly
the physical and go to the emotional place first. Now, I don't think that's easy for him.
Okay, so you're getting to the bread and butter, the guts of this discussion towards the end.
Okay.
But it goes both ways. Since you're going there, let's go there.
Okay, go ahead.
It goes both ways. So again, for a man to lead emotion, to have that union, he has to create trust and safety.
Exactly.
Okay. Vice versa. Again, to be other person centered, a woman, if she fully understands a man can connect emotionally easier through physical connection,
okay,
then she should be willing to also offer that up.
Yes.
Okay. So,
yes.
And that's the whole point of my topic that I'm hearing here. When both are thinking other person,
yes,
this makes this much easier. But if one person says, well, she needs to give me this,
then there's a breakdown.
Exactly. And vice versa. He needs to give me this.
Right.
There's a breakdown. Exactly.
Right. And so if I'm hearing you correctly, of course, she wants to connect emotionally right out the gate first. And then he wants the physical access, but she has to be willing to go there to be other
correct
centered. Yes, but okay. A goodwill, godly woman, I'm not going there first. I know it here, but I'm not going there.
As you shouldn't.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure we're clear.
No, we're clear. We're clear.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that just some of the language that I was hearing, I was hearing a lot being placed on the man. So I wanted to make sure, again, because I'm trying to reach a secular audience here as well.
Secular or non-secular, I think the man should be leading there.
Agreed.
Oh, okay.
Agreed.
I'm making sure.
Agreed. Okay. I'm just trying to say a lot of men, because they don't have emotional capacity. We talked about this last week. They don't have the emotional capacity.
Right. Okay, I agree.
So it is much easier through a physical contact that they can become more emotional.
Yes.
I'm not saying that's right.
But, okay. Gotcha.
I'm saying there's the inherent subconscious, the way they're designed.
Right.
And if we are truly, as men, leading the way we're called throughout the Bible, they're developing that emotional capacity. So
Okay.
they're going to understand that woman so they can get the physical.
Mhm.
But I will say healthy men, once they understand the emotional capacity and
Mhm.
once they understand just how deep you can connect without the
Mhm.
physical becomes
Right. Okay.
the
Okay. I
cherry on
got you.
top. You don't
Right.
need it.
Right. Exactly.
But in immature, unhealthy men
Mhm.
and the natural desires they have, and then you throw the sin on top and the brokenness,
Mhm.
that's why they lead the way they do. Desire, 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 desire. Again, I'm not making an excuse for them,
Right.
but I'm sharing reasons.
Okay. So I got you. That's the reality of it all. You know, he's wired the way he's wired. She's wired the way she's wired. But ultimately, to be other centered, neither one should be judging each other for the way that they are
Right.
hardwired.
Right.
It is accept them and then be willing to meet each other somewhere in the middle.
You got it.
Okay. I got you.
So let me restate what I was trying to set up for the ache. Now.
Okay. Gotcha.
So men were designed to desire.
Mhm.
Desire is not a flaw.
Mm-mm.
It's a reflection of your divine design. But it was never meant to override attunement. Never meant to override emotional safety.
Right.
It was meant to deepen the covenant. And that's what I'm ultimately leading towards why this is so important and why the covenant and why God brought the woman to the man and said the two should come together and become one flesh.
Mm-hmm.
And I also wanted to point out, and I'm going to invite Lisa just to characterize what I'm about to share and put nuance on it if I misstate anything.
Okay.
That ladies, your caution isn't dysfunction. And that's what I think you were trying to share earlier. It's not dysfunction. That's your inherent design. So that need for your emotional safety is completely healthy. It's normal. And it's not a barrier to connection. It's your design.
Yes.
And women were made to open in the presence of honor, in the presence of reverence, in the presence of provision and protection.
Yes.
So you are wired to soften when you feel covered emotionally and physically.
Absolutely.
And that is not high maintenance. And that is nothing to be ashamed of. That's the fingerprint of God and who he made women to be intimately.
It's not high maintenance at all. I would put that in the same category, the same level of what he's expecting her to adjust to how he's hardwired. How he's hardwired and whatever that looks like, as each man is going to be different. So she could easily say, that's too high maintenance. Well, no, it's not. I would say it's fairly equal.
So this is the challenge that I'd like to send out to men out there, for those who are watching and who may watch the replay. Now that I've shared that desire is not, the word I use, is not a flaw. It's a reflection of your divine design. So my challenge and my reframe. What if your desire isn't something to suppress or justify, but instead an invitation to grow in attunement?
Okay.
Use that as a reason to grow your emotional capacity, to become more emotionally intelligent in order to revere the feminine and to really love your wife as Christ loved the church. And then for women, and I'd like you to reshape, nuance this if this doesn't make sense. What if your need for emotional safety isn't a weakness, but the wisdom that God wove into your nervous system so that you can gently and lovingly hold men accountable to revere you the way that you should be revered?
Yes. I love what you said for the men and what you said for the women. That's a tall order, because that's the ideal. That's, of course, that's what we want. But we both flawed people, and all of this needs to be communicated. And most of the time, it's not. It's not communicated, and that's when he feels misunderstood or disrespected. And then same thing for her, because these conversations aren't being done. And so then you create 3, 4, 5 other problems instead of treating the root one, which is what we're talking about now because his desire is nothing for him to be ashamed about.
Exactly.
And I would dare say that his desire is probably stronger than hers. That's okay. That's okay. But it's normal, and he should not be judged or shamed for it at all. Now, we could take it to a whole other level where if you go there, then you need to go before the Lord and confess if the desires take you down a path you don't want to go. But in a husband and wife context, he should not be judged or shamed for how he feels.
Agreed. And I'm going to bring it out to society. He gets shamed in society already. It's hard enough, you know.
Yes.
So let's talk for a moment a little bit about, we've been online for about 25 minutes. What you talked about the communication. How do we communicate this? How do we solve this very immense problem that society has, the church has, that relationships have?
Well, you have to begin to become comfortable with these uncomfortable conversations.
Mhm.
You have to. It's not easy for her, and it's not easy for him. As I've stated before, I believe it's harder for the man, but these conversations has to be had. So start with that, and then put the Lord in the center of it, so that you can stay other centered, because he may say something that she doesn't like, or vice versa, and then it could totally go crazy. But you have to have those uncomfortable conversations. Start with that, and then somewhere form a group in your church to start these conversations. So these conversations, to me, should be just as normal as a Sunday school class.
All right. Amen.
Now, you're not going to, more than likely, when you go to Sunday school, you're not there for those sorts of things. You're not going to, but have it somewhere in the structure of the church educational program, so that this is normal. I can, just as you walk into a Sunday school class and we're discussing the life of Jesus and disciples and everything else in the Bible, then let's say Wednesday night or Sunday night, we're gonna go to this particular class, or whatever your church may call it. Your church may not call it Brokenness to Wholeness, but you go in there, and that conversation is just as normal with couples.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to start with you've been married 1 year, 5 years. It may have to start with a couple been married 20 years, mm-hmm. and they're just now talking about this. How would you say we go about starting these types of conversations for husbands and wives?
Well, I think it's a multi-pronged approach. We're doing it here, and we're doing it publicly and live, and it's going to be on Facebook, and it'll be on YouTube, and it'll be left there for posterity unless it gets deleted or dropped offline. So that's one. Mm-hmm. I think that men and women need to speak up more when we hear others in the public place that will make a comment. And again, I don't think it's intentionally to blame or shame, but it's so often I hear women say, all you care about is sex, or all you care about this. That's an open door. Mm-hmm. To say it's not an excuse, but it's a reason men are wired for that. Mm-hmm. And vice versa. Whenever a man says she won't, give me any intimacy, mm-hmm. that's an open door. So that's the public fear.
Right. Well, let's stay there with the public reasoning for that. I would say then, in that context, don't even judge that woman either, because that may be her reality. And her, and probably thousands, if not millions more, that's their reality in their life, because these are more than likely conversations you're having with your father. And unfortunately, you get married and you're not having a conversation with your husband. So that very well could be her reality. So don't shut her down. That's when these programs should already be in your church environment, so that she has somewhere to go, so someone can teach her.
So my response was a 3-pronged response. That's prong one.
Okay.
Secondly, the church has to start talking about this. The church has to talk more about it. And I'm going to jump to the end, and then I'll come back.
Okay.
You're jumping ahead of me.
Okay.
The third is it has to be talked about in the house, in the family.
Yes.
So moms and dads need to share this with their children. rather than giving, like what happened to me, my mom brought a book home and handed me the book about sex.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I knew. I didn't learn these things until I was in my 40s,
Mm-hmm.
late 40s,
Mhm.
about emotional attunement and safety and a man's desire and the healthiness of both and the unhealthiness of both, the shadow and the trauma that comes with both.
Mm-hmm.
So if I didn't learn until I was in my late 40s, I would venture to say that 90% of all men are dealing with that same thing. What are your thoughts on women learning these things?
Yeah, the likelihood of it being taught in the home, if let's say the younger generation, I think they are starting to do it. But if the older generations, this wasn't talked about in the home. It's necessary. I didn't learn this, a lot of this I didn't learn until about 10, 20 years ago.
Mhm.
I was married for 40 years and I didn't know half of this. I did not know. So I don't know. Probably the safest place to learn it would be in the church, so you wouldn't have the judgment or the shame.
Mhm. So I think about the Bible teachers that I know and love and have known for many years, and I can't imagine any of those men teaching this. I'll be honest. I'll teach you in a heartbeat. But I don't think that men either understand it, equipped, or they're bold enough to go into this space. What are your thoughts?
And I don't want to be beating up on men.
Not beating up. I'm just speaking the truth here.
But I would I would agree. I don't think they want to go there. I think they know the conversations are necessary, but it's difficult to go there because I'm gonna speak, and you tell me if I'm wrong, for the married man. If his wife has made the home a place where he could share these kinds of things with her, then you have a chance for him to go out in the world, to go out in the world and have these conversations with iron sharpening iron with other men, as long as he knows he can start there. But at some point, these conversations, they have to be had, because the way I look at it, there are ladies coming up behind me.
Yeah.
So we have to have these conversations.
Yeah, I agree. It's also the work that I try to do with the men that I'm working with right now is have these conversations. But again, I'm one man.
Yeah.
And this problem is so pervasive and it's profound because, again, I believe it is God's design to create deep, intimate connection. And if we're not going that next step to understand the other person, to be other person centered, we're never going to connect. And it's why I believe that so many people think that, and why society is going the direction they are with sex and with homosexuality and polyamory and all these other things. It's purely desire.
Yeah. It's
not being done in a way that's emotionally healthy because we're ignoring these differences.
Right. What that screams to me is that we just have to go to the basics, and starting with just raw emotions. Emotions are real. Everybody has them, and your only person's emotions you're responsible for are your own. And when I say basics, in order to have the conversation like this, I went to Genesis 1:28, and God created man and women for pleasure. The greatest excitement of your nerve endings will ever have happens in the sexual intercourse in husband and wife. That's the greatest. So it starts with that. So that is normal. It is normal. What makes it abnormal is not having the conversation. So that one or the other, doesn't have to be her. Maybe he's uncomfortable with whatever. So just go to the basic and remembering that it was God who created that desire, and then that desire becomes more past emotion to physical, and that's okay. started with God. So start with that and normalize that so that we can have the conversations like this. It starts in the home, Lord willing, mom and dad, and then husband and wife, and then in the church setting, and make it normal as the Sunday school class. And then somewhere in that woman's life, for her to learn that men are visual, and so the way she presents herself is critical, not to the world, not to all the other men, but critical to her husband. That's what sets us with the basics. In order for that attunement to happen, basic. Start there. Start with there, just in how she dresses.
Yeah. I'm actually really glad that you went there, because, you know, one of the things that I have been working on myself in my own life, and my coach had actually brought this to me, is to always ask that question, is what am I doing now to contribute into the field of unconditional love? And again, this goes back to what we see Paul writes in Ephesians 5, especially speaking to the man, you know, love your wife like Christ loved the church and be willing to die for her.
Right.
And when we do that, men, I'm speaking to you, we're reminded that physical intimacy isn't just about our own physical pleasure and reproduction, although it is that, but it's more about the covenant, that promise, and the promise of Christ and the picture of Christ in the church. And that's what we're designed, what we're called as men to reproduce in the home, is that other person-centered, self-sacrificial love. And Lisa talked about making herself more appealing, but he's doing that for her. That's being other person-centered, and that is refining and bringing them together as one flesh, like we spoke about last week.
Right.
And that creates more and more safety.
Right.
And that creates growth, that creates deeper connection, that creates more love, that creates a stronger union, as we're designed to be like the Trinity.
Right.
To become closer and closer in one flesh.
Right. And as she's prepared or dressed the way she wants to be addressed for her husband, she's able to do that because somewhere in their relationship, he's made it possible in their connection for her to feel safe.
Yeah. And men, I will also invite you to, in the one scripture verse that I had planned for today, actually I've got two, three I've got written down, but two I wanted to talk about was 1 Peter 3:7. And this is our calling. So when we look at what Paul called men to do in Ephesians chapter 5, and Peter called men to do in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7, likewise, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way, showing honor to the woman as the weaker vessel, since they are heirs with you, heirs to the kingdom of God, heirs to the grace of life, so that your prayers may not be hindered. So again, being other person-centered, honoring your wife, understanding her, and when you understand her needs, her emotional needs, the connection needs, then the physical needs that you have will get fulfilled. And ultimately, we do this to create that perfect union like Christ in his church.
Yes.
Lisa, anything to add to that?
I agree with everything you said. Just add to it. She will be more than happy and willing to meet his needs as long as he's following what you just said with the scripture, loving her and honoring her as Christ loved the church. That creates safety, protection, provision, everything. And then she's more willing to then provide for his needs.
And like Peter, Paul also said at the very end of Ephesians chapter 5, he says, however, let each one of you love his wife as himself.
Yes.
And let the wife see that she respects her husband. And that's how it closes out. So again, being other person-centered. And we know that Jesus spoke about love your neighbor like yourself is not about, it is about every single need that you would have emotionally, physically, spiritually, that you're also going to give that to her. Yes. But you should give it to her first to be self-sacrificial as Jesus did for us.
Right, exactly. I don't have anything to add to that.
Well, thank you.
Yes, give it to her first. Yes.
So I'm sorry that when I tried to set the table for this was my intent to get to that
Right.
thing at the very end. I wanted to set the table for anybody that's watching,
Yes.
to understand what society has done with the male and female body, what it has done because of desire, a man's desire, and to some extent a woman's desire, that we forget about the emotional, and we forget that it's so much easier to have that emotional attunement and trust within the sanctity of marriage, because that inherently brings in a level of trust.
Yes.
And that's why the covenant,
Extremely important.
what God created in Genesis chapter 2, marriage, it is creational. It was made on the sixth day of creation. I'm seeing so much being talked about singleness right now in the world, about how great it is to be single. And yes, Paul was single, but Paul also said it is better to be married rather than to be, what was the wording that he used? Rather than burn with passion. Right. So if your desires, men, are so strong,
get married.
You need to be in marriage. Yeah. Women need emotional connection, and the best way to get that and the safety that they need is in marriage.
It's in the marriage. Yes.
Yeah.
I would agree to that. I would agree to that.
Any other questions or comments that you'd like to add or share? And audience, those are online, please fire off your questions. I've seen a few people come and go. If you're online, please let us know that you joined us.
I just wrote a little note to myself just to address what I said about her being willing to dress a certain way for her husband, since he's visual. A little note that I made to myself, because again, this is just basic, is to caution the ladies, is just to be careful how you dress when you leave outside the bedroom. You're dressing that way for your husband. You don't want to awaken the that desire for other men after you leave the safety and covering of your home. So that is just for your husband, your bedroom. So before you leave your covering and safety, ask the Holy Spirit to examine what you're wearing.
Yeah, and one other note that I'd like to share, and I appreciate you sharing that, Lisa, is that all men and women are different. We are uniquely, fearfully, and wonderfully made. So I'm speaking about, I want to call them generalities. They are specific, and it is a general thumb rule about men and women, about appearance, attraction, and all that. But each person is uniquely different. So this goes back to the communication piece that Lisa brought up many times. It's so important that partners talk about these things. So men, you can really share what your deepest desires are. Physically, what your deepest desires that you need or desire in order to connect emotionally. And women do the same.
Yes.
What you need, what I would like of you is a good way to frame it. So if he is not into the visual as much, might be his thing. But that should be communicated what the preferences are. And this is not about superficial needs. This is about connection. And the best way to connect is speaking who we are, being completely open and honest, because that's authenticity, and authenticity breeds connection.
The transparency must be there between the husband and wife.
All right. Any other things you'd like to add about this topic here? We've been online for about 44 minutes.
No. I don't know why I tried this down just as a note. When we were talking about attunement, then it's access. I thought access to what? And my mind immediately went to her body. But this note that I have here is to allow, where do your children fit in this? So don't make your bedroom the family room.
Agreed.
Don't make that the family room. Your bedroom of the husband and wife should be a sanctuary where you both feel safe and being naked and not ashamed. Your bedroom, master bedroom, is not a family room. Teach your children that when the door is closed, family time is over. This is the husband and mom and dad time.
That's a beautiful tip. And I would also suggest men, don't put a TV in the bedroom either.
No.
Because I think that is one of the things that breaks down relationship very quickly. As Lisa said, keep it a sanctuary and build it as a sanctuary.
Yeah, don't put TV in there. Music, yes, but not TV.
Yeah, music, candles,
Yes.
right light, right paint job, right ambiance.
Right. Safety, create safety and sanctuary,
Yeah.
a place of peace for both of them.
Mhm.
And whatever that looks like, it'll be different for each couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anything else to add?
I have one more thing, but I wanted to talk about, since we're on this subject of connection. I also thought, what would you say when temptation? What would you say about temptation?
I think it's the most.
Leave that for another subject.
Well, I think let's tease it out here,
Okay.
and then let's make it a topic for another discussion.
Okay.
I think I would probably have to ask, what do you mean by temptation? I would submit if men and women are doing what we talked about here, the temptation is knocked down.
I would say that's ideal, but because we're all have fallen short of the glory of God, and what tempts a man is going to be different than what tempts a woman. So even if you're married, I think temptation, because Satan doesn't fight fair.
Yeah, I agree with that. And
yeah,
we're going to have a whole talk on this, but I will stand by the statement
of
that for me, again, each man is different too.
Right.
The temptation's not there when the connection is there, because with the connection comes the physical intimacy, becomes health.
That makes me think of another question. There's me and probably 500 million other women on there. When it's attempt that if that's there, then why would they cheat then?
Because it's not there. I'll tell you unequivocally. Again, I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying reasons that men do that because they're not feeling safe and connected in their relationships.
Okay.
And I'm not placing that women on the women.
Right. Okay.
I will say that men will probably cheat. This is worth a whole nother topic.
Yeah. Men
will probably cheat because they want the physical connection, because they're afraid to go to the emotional connection. I think that happens.
Okay. Oh, I would agree.
They don't have to go deep.
Okay.
They get just enough and then they move on. So I'm saying if the deep connection's there, the temptation gets taken away. So now the question is, how do we expose that trauma so they are willing to go?
And to me, that's the ideal. If they're both working from a place of transparency and honesty, and the Lord totally in the center, and both of them growing, not perfect, then I could see how you can say, Satan, go get out of here, get out of the house. And then, yes, she's not tempted, he's not tempted, because they're doing their work.
And I will go one step further. Men, if you do have a temptation, you should immediately communicate that to your wife. Because then, again, open and honest, assuming there's no shame, it gets it out. You have spoken to what's inside of you, and then she will probably love the vulnerability and say, okay, what can we do to work through this?
Right.
So now you've connected to her emotionally, and now she's willing to step in to help with that and perhaps give you something that might not have been there that is even causing that temptation.
Right, because you make it worse by not telling her, and then years pass and all things happen, and then tell her, she's going to be more hurt by it. But so that's a whole nother.
I would love to put a pin in this, and let's make that next week's discussion, to pick up right here and to go into the temptation area, because this nuance.
Yes, this needs a whole section by itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we went a little long today, and I'm thankful for those that are still with us. And I will like to close really quick. If this stirred something in you, don't walk away from it. Remember, you're not alone. Temptation is there.
Temptation is there.
There is challenges with connection. There's challenges with desire, and there's challenges with emotional attunement. There's challenges with the emotional needs that a woman needs. So you're not alone. You're not broken. But we were made for covenant. We're made for connection, and we're made for wholeness.
For wholeness.
So if you'd like to walk this out more with us, I've got 3 options for you that I'd like to share quickly. For those who are interested to know a little bit more about me and the work that I do, you can check me out at my webpage, jssimpson.com. where I do offer a few tools. I have some links there to work with me directly, and also to purchase one of my books. I'm working on 2 other books right now. So please check me out right there. I have also released, as I'm working on my book, Maverick Intimacy, which is going to talk about all of these things. I just released a short little ebook that is called Intimacy That Lasts. So a short little 20-page book on some of these tips that I'm talking about. Really, I'm speaking about the masculine and feminine polarity, which we're going to have a topic on that here in the coming weeks. But if you're interested in that, you can get that at maverickintimacy.com. And then, and most importantly, the big event that we have coming up that Lisa and I have planned is, if you'd like to experience both Lisa and I live, hear about our testimonies, hear about the work that we do, and be part of a live stream, because we are going to have a conversation similar to this live with an actual audience. Join us on September 13th. And you can register for that event at brokenness.wholeness.org. We will serve breakfast and lunch there.
And registration is available and open now.
Yes, and we've got early bird for about 2 more weeks. So if you're interested in a spirit-led teaching, some real stories about our lives and how we've come to learn some of these things, and the pain and the fire that we've walked through to get there, join us there. And you can register for Brokenness to Wholeness. Brokenness-to-wholeness.org. Lisa, anything else to add to that?
Brokenness to Wholeness is basically a mission of my life, where it's giving you tools and tips of understanding the basics. So many people, they're broken, and you and me included, for a season, you go for decades broken, but you're not understanding why or even how you got there. And it's just like when I read a book, I go to the end of the book first. Sounds strange. Go to the end of the book first before I read the beginning, because I want to know the answer. Same thing with the Brokenness to Wholeness. In order to understand your future, you've got to go back and understand how you got there. And we're going to offer those tools and tips at the conference. So I'll see you there.
September 13th, and make sure you get registered for that. Early bird ends in about 2 weeks, and then we close registration before the 13th so we can get food and support ordered and in place.
Yes.
So I thank everybody for joining us today. This is Maverick Live, Brokenness to Wholeness, where we help you courageously fulfill the life and work you were uniquely made for.
Yes. And I'm Lisa. First, love yourself, fly.
Yep. And in closing, and final blessing to those who are watching today, I'm so thankful that all of you joined us today. I see a few likes and loves. Please drop a note on if you joined us live. Let us know live, and also let us know where you're listening in from. And remember that desire isn't the problem. Disconnection is.
Yes.
And you were made for intimacy that reflects heaven, for passion that honors, for presence that restores.
Yes.
Women, your need for emotional safety and emotional connection is not broken. It is normal, and it is divinely given.
Yes.
And for men and women, remember that you are worth dying for, and you are worth the work of returning to what's true, and become the person that you are uniquely created to be.
Amen. You're meant for more.
Amen. All right, everybody, thank you. We will see you next week, and I appreciate you sticking around for a little bit longer session today, as we were deep into attunement and access. So everybody have a great weekend. We will see you next week.